Hello, today I'm attempting a puzzle called Not Wordle, and you'll see why it's got that name in just a second. So I'm going to start with the word crawl, just as a random guess. And this has a Scrabble score of 10, and the first clue is that that score is too high, so we need to use slightly more common letters. So that's why I didn't go for a really obvious word straight away, because that would give you a Scrabble score of 5, and it would almost certainly be too low, which wouldn't tell you anything. But we do need to go towards A, so it's going to start with A or B. And the reason it can't start with C is because this clue at the end is yellow, which means that we haven't got any greens basically, so the C can't be in the correct position. So it could start with A or B. Let's try above. Oh no, that's also 10, so that won't be correct. And the yellow one also implies that there's only one of those letters that is in the word. So let's guess that it's the L, which means that we can't use the A. So how about something like blind? Is that a more common word than cruel? I don't know. Well, apparently it is. So what we're saying here is that blind is too common, but cruel is too obscure. However, we have to go towards Z, so it starts with either B or C, and we've already ruled out C, so it has to start with B. And also, because of the green 2 at the end, we know that we've got exactly 2 letters in the correct place, but we actually don't know how many letters we've got in the wrong place, because it only tells you one or the other, whichever is. It tells you greens if you've got greens, otherwise it tells you yellow. So I think, let's assume that we've got the BL correct. So the third letter is going to be a vowel, and it's going to be after I in the alphabet. So perhaps O. That score was too high, so it can't be blood. If we're starting with B, that means we can only use letters that are worth 1 point in Scrabble. Hopefully at the bottom of the screen we've got those spelt out. I was going to try blunt, but it can't be, because then we'd have 3 letters in the correct position. I don't think we can use the W, because that's too high. We know that it doesn't start with C. And in fact it can't contain a B and a C, because then the point value would be too high as well. So if it doesn't have the L, it might have an A instead. But the second letter then would have to be later than L in the alphabet. And we would need to have one of the letters from the second row in the correct position, so maybe the N? That seems plausible. So we've got the correct score, but it's earlier in the alphabet, and we've now got 3 letters in the correct position. So, I mean, could it be blunt then? Could it be a combination of both of the 2 words that I've done? So that would have a score of 7. It's earlier in the alphabet than burnt, but later than blind. I don't know whether it's too obscure or too common. But it does have 3 letters in the correct position. Well, we're getting further away actually. So this clue here that I haven't looked at yet is basically, if you imagine a word ladder where you're changing just one letter at a time to make a new word, how many steps do you need to go to get from the word that I've guessed to the correct answer? So obviously the reason I haven't used that yet is I cannot envisage that in my head of how that word ladder would work, so I'm not sure it's that useful. But even though we had 3 letters correct on the 3rd row, we were still 5 steps away, which presumably means in the word ladder we need to get further away before we come close again. Or maybe it could be built, if I spell it correct. So that's a score of 7. It's in the correct position in the alphabet. It has 3 letters in common with burnt. It's plausible. Oh, still not correct. And we need to go towards A, so maybe it's not U as the second letter then. But we needed to go towards Z in the word blunt. Maybe it's not a T at the end then, but who knows what it could be. It has to be earlier than built in the alphabet, so if it does start BU, sorry, then the third letter has to be, well, it can't be A because of the top row. It would have to be somewhere between B and H. Surely it can't be H. It also has to have an R, an N or a T in those positions because of this row, which can't be the R because of this row. Oh, in fact, this row's only got 1 in the correct position. That's incredibly useful, so it can't be a U second. And if it can't be a U second, that means it's 2 letters out of R, N and T. But we already know that it's only 1 letter out of N and T from this row. So that means the R has to be third. So if the R has to be third, the U can't be second, and the T can't be last, which means it has to have an N there. And the second letter has to be between L and U, probably. So I'm thinking it has to be born. I am fairly confident. There we go. That was a real struggle. It's a very difficult puzzle. You've just got so much information, and so much of it is actually not that useful at all. But let me know if you enjoyed it, and if you'd like to see more puzzles of this type again on my channel. Thank you for watching, and bye for today.